Hey y'all, welcome to Soccer for Us. I am Bart, and on this episode we are talking finally about the 2026 World Cup. It is being hosted right here in the United States and Canada and Mexico. And we are here to preview, well, kind of, give our predictions, give our takes, talk about the U.S. men's national team and how we feel about this team before the tournament starts and how we think they will be able to do in this pivotal moment for the sport in this country. To talk with me on this episode is a familiar voice. It is the greatest historian on U.S. soccer Twitter, Thomas, aka U.S. Keeper. Thomas, good evening. It is here. We are on the a day before the World Cup kicks off here. We're recording. It feels finally like there's maybe some hype around this tournament.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, I don't know. I feel the hype inside me. I feel the excitement inside me. So I can't really judge other people. There's a lot of great content everywhere for every country. There's, everyone's doing their part to kind of fill into it. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot of great things out there. So it's exciting. It's, it's here. I mean, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, we get kicked off and we're off and running at least 17 straight days of soccer. I think it may be more of that, but that's group stage for sure. And it's it was a shorter cycle, obviously, and so it happened quick. Everything happened a lot quicker. And being here on the home soil, it's gonna be a great experience. Everyone's excited. I'm sure you guys have the same. You're a soccer expert in your circle, and the bandwagon fans come out for big events in the United States, as we know. So I'm sure you're getting a million questions on soccer related facts and other fun things. So it's here.
Well, it is here, and someone who is going to be, as you mentioned, on retainer to answer any and all laws of the game question, I'm sure, during this tournament, is my good friend and yours, Lawrence Dockery. Lawrence, you're gonna be answering all those silly little questions about the new rules they've implemented for this tournament, right?
I've put in a call to Fox. They haven't gotten back to me yet.
That's rude.
I told them I told them I would do it for at 10% of whatever they're paying noted buffoon Joe Macknick to be on their broadcasts. Unfortunately, they do have Mark Clattenburg, who is an excellent rules analyst. I wish I could have. I don't think anybody had a better 2016 where you refereed the FA Cup final, the Champions League final, and the Euro final within a month. That's a good 2016, and that's who I want to be my rules analyst.
The U.S. just finished up its warm-up friendlies, tune-up friendlies, send-off friendlies, whatever you want to call them, with a 2-1 loss to Germany. I don't want to dig too much into that game. We know we talked about the Senegal game last time, but I guess, Lawrence, just overview, what did you take from the game, and did it really teach anything new about the team, or is it just, all right, this is the team?
It taught me that this team has finally, I've made the point for months now that we can't just expect this team to play a certain way for the last 3.5 years, and then all of a sudden the World Cup happens and boom, they all of a sudden start playing a completely different way. I think we've been wrong with that. They like this Senegal game and the Germany game came, and it does look like they have flipped some sort of switch, to me anyway. In that the effort was there from start to finish. The chances were there mostly from start to finish. And, I cannot think of the last time the U.S. played against a European opponent and was clearly the better team. I can't. You have to probably go back to before the last World Cup, maybe the Wales game at the last World Cup, but that one felt pretty even.
Yeah.
And yes, they lost. And yes, that's 12 straight losses to European opponents, which, when you have one of those in your group in the group stage is a problem. And then you're going to have to play European teams when the metal meets the meat. That's also going to be a problem. But that I feel a lot better today about this team and their prospects at this World Cup than I did 3 weeks ago. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way they played in these two games. And again, these were more quality opponents. You've got probably 1A, 1B best team in Africa, and then Germany. And like Germany, that's Blue Magic. That's a brand. Disappointing though they've been at the last two World Cups, and I think disappointing though they will be at this World Cup. Maybe not as bad as the last two, but I don't think they're going to be able to deal with the heat, as we saw the Dortmund players at the Club World Cup last summer. But I'm feeling much better about it than I was, and I think to Thomas's point, there's like I've had the World Cup excitement in me for 8 years, since 8 years to the day since they announced that we were getting the bid, and I'll say this. Maybe it's just because that I had sought some of this out at some point, or maybe this is just what the devices are listening. But my YouTube feed for the last month has been nothing but local news stations from World Cup host cities running story after story after story, day after day after day after day about any number, even cities that aren't like all these cities that are hosting base camps that aren't doing World Cup games, like Greensboro, North Carolina, or Providence, Rhode Island, or Nashville, for example. Like everybody is running stories about it. So I think it's finally here. The only regret, I guess, is that we didn't try the powers that be didn't start trying sooner.
Yeah, that's true. I think as someone who works in both media but also in soccer supporters groups, been fielding a lot of those, and it is quite funny to all of a sudden be getting these. I mean, I had the local Pizza Hut chain reaching out like, "Hey, do you want to do a partnership?" And I'm like, "What do you want to do?" And they haven't gotten back to that email when I said, "Okay, well, yeah, what?" Other than deliver free pizza to my apartment every game day because I'm going to be getting home at 2 a.m. Then I don't know what else to tell you. Thomas, it was a loss. I think, that is the disappointing part of this. And I think especially the first goal was a little disappointing. Personally, it felt like we saw the ceiling for the team, but maybe not like a hard ceiling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's energy, there's grit. There's just these things we really haven't seen consistently, throughout. I mean, again, and this is a point too, it's a valid one that I believe is that when we saw US Nations League, about 3 in a row, that fight, that grit, that determination against Mexico each time, right, to have the three-peat of the Nations League, which is, again, it's still a minor tournament, but you saw that fight, you saw those things, and that's what this group needs to find, maintain, and continue if they want any sort of like significant run in this tournament, right? And I think they've awakened. Hopefully it keeps that way. Hopefully they don't take any of these group stage matches for granted, because they're all going to matter, I think. And you've got to get off to a good start in the group stage, because it's we've said it before, we'll say it again. It's not a difficult group in terms of a big name team or two, but it's the most balanced group that we see here, and anything's possible. You can get, in a situation where 3 of the teams have 6 points, or all 4 teams have 4 points. They're that good of opponents. So don't give it any room for error on this.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as we jump into actual World Cup talk. Is the U.S. is in a tough group, but a navigable group. And that's why I don't think it's the group of death necessarily, but I do think it's a group that is hard. But we'll talk about the format right now, but there is not margin for error, but not necessity to be perfect. So let's just dive into it. 2026 World Cup is hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The U.S. will be hosting basically every game from the round of 16 onward. The Canada and Mexico will have a couple games in the knockout rounds, plus each individual host country will play all their games. Their group will play all their games in those host countries, but then most of the tournament hosted in the U.S. We have 12 groups of 4. The United States is in Group D. We are the seeded team as being the host nation. We drew Australia, Paraguay, and Turkey. We play Paraguay first on Friday, June 12th. Then we in Los Angeles. Then we travel up to Seattle to play Australia on Friday, June 19th, and then back down to Los Angeles for the final group match against Turkey on Thursday, June 25th. Top 2 advance automatically. The 8 best third place teams advance as well. So that's that margin of error that I think we're talking about. We do get a new knockout round for this tournament since we have 48 total teams, round of 32 now. And, that I think I want to pause a little bit and talk about the group format because it is a little, I don't want to say easier, Thomas, but I think that having the third place teams, not just for the US, but like all of these countries who are kind of in that second or third tier who would really be struggling to make it out of the group or being in a fight to make it out of the group, it gives them some reason to really have hope that they can get it out and maybe go on a run.
Right. And I think this is where that third game, I mean, it's a watered down pool. There's 48 teams. I mean, there's no denying that. I think it hopefully still makes that third match of the of the group stage really be impactful, right? Because I think FIFA was, if people don't remember, they were talking about a format of 3 teams per group before, and then they realized the buildup of what that final group stage matchups can be, on those final days of the group play for those teams, and they see the value in that. So that's obviously why they went with the format that they did, and I think that's a smart move. And it's going to be important. I mean, the U.S. plays a tough third match, and it could matter. It's definitely going to matter in terms of positioning. I mean, in terms of where they fall, right? First, third, wherever. I mean, hopefully they don't need to go into it and win it to have to win to advance. All right. Hopefully they've already locked up a spot, but again, that's no guarantee unless they win both matches. I'm assuming 6 points gets you through. 5 is probably typically what you would see. 4 is with the third place ones. You probably go to the tiebreakers in the third place pool there when that breaks out.
Yeah, Lawrence, I think it does make the groups more interesting with another team being able to get out. I think for the U.S. specifically, though, how do I put this nicely? Third place is basically almost as bad as getting grouped. Is that wrong to say, or does it matter?
It's wrong to say, but not by much.
Okay.
Because if you finish third, you still do get that extra game, and if you're U.S. Soccer, you desperately need that extra game. So there's that many extra eyeballs on you. Now, if you go out there and show your ass, then maybe not so much. But no, like. It makes it easier, and I have made the point that I understand they need to have their shit wired tight at all times and, be ready to go and hit the ground running. They can't try to ease into this. They can't show up half-assing it. They got to pedal to the metal, all in, balls out, start to finish, 90 minutes, all 3 games. These are not teams where you can just take a play off here or there and everything's going to be fine. I think this is probably I have been making the case that this is the best chance the U.S. men's national team will ever have to finish the group stage with a maximum 9 points out of 9. This is the best chance for that to ever happen.
Totally. Yeah.
Because you don't have one of those brand name teams in your group like you've had at basically every other World Cup for your existence. 4 years ago it was England. Before that it was Germany and Brazil. Before that it was England and South Africa. Before that, it was Italy in 2006. They went on and won the whole thing. 2002, you had Portugal and the host, South Korea. 1990, you were in there with the hosts, Italy, who went to the semifinals of that tournament. So, this is probably the best chance you're going to have to get 9 points out of 9. What I need to see from this team is, and a win in the first game is almost mandatory. Because if we've seen how quickly things can slide with this team when stuff doesn't go their way, and if they don't get a win in that first game, it's gonna, I think, would get very ugly very quick. And I don't think this team has the fortitude to circle the wagons if it gets really ugly really quick. As good as I have been feeling about them after these last 2 games, what I need to see in this first game against Paraguay, I need to see what Bruce Arena had his team do to Portugal in the first 30 minutes of that game in 2002. And they came out and just blitzed them, and Portugal had no idea what hit them. And then what you can't do is what the U.S. team did in that game, and then what this team has a bad habit of doing is give up a goal with the last kick of the first half. Can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened against Belgium, and they rolled over and died. So I think the game against Paraguay is so critically important because you have to start off on the right foot. And I think it's one of those ones, if you do start off on the right foot, anything is possible. And if you start off on the wrong foot, you're dead.
Yeah.
Not because Australia or Turkey are like unbeatable juggernauts. I mean, we just proved, like, we played Paraguay last year and beat them, and we played Australia last year and beat them. And those are 2 teams that historically we beat when we played. Turkey's the same way. They did just beat us last year, but historically we're usually pretty good about when we play them, we beat them. But, you know, if things don't go well right off the bat, I do still have concern about a kind of snowball of negativity. Once it starts, it's going to be really, really, really hard to stop.
Yeah, I think this team thrives on confidence, and Captain Sad Boy needs to be feeling his best in order to make this team go, apparently. Because when he's in his feels, then this team doesn't do well, as we saw in March.
Bart, you don't understand. It made him mad. He threw his phone at the wall.
Yeah. Captain Sad Boy. I'm sorry, he's not captain anymore.
Thank God.
Vice Admiral, or whatever we're going to call him. I don't know. Major Sad Boy. Who knows? Let's quickly try to run through the knockout round paths-ish for the U.S. If they win the group, they will play a 3rd place team from one of 5 other groups. I'm not going to list all of them. In the San Francisco Bay Area, Santa Clara. And that game will be on Wednesday, July 1st. If they finish as a runner-up in Group D, which is very plausible and not the worst thing, they will play a round of 32 game in Dallas against another 2nd place team, which that's why I say it's not the end of the world, because you're playing a 2nd place team, right? In the past, if you finish 2nd, you're playing a 1st place team. That's not terrible. That's not good. If you finish 2nd, you get another 2nd place team. Okay. You know, not the worst thing ever. If they finish 3rd, there are one of 3 paths they could take. They could be playing in like the first knockout round match in Boston. Then they could also be playing in a knockout round match against New York, New Jersey. Those 2 matches, by the way, the winners then square off on July 4th in Philadelphia. So if you have a wet dream about the U.S. playing a World Cup match at home on 4th of July again, you have to finish 3rd. And then also there's a 3rd place possibility in Kansas City. Now, if we finish 3rd, we are playing the winner of a group, either Group E, I, or K in that order. So, again, don't finish 3rd because you're playing a 1st place team. That's not great. If you finish 1st, you play a 3rd place team. You finish 2nd, you're playing a 2nd place team. That's why I don't think 2nd place is the worst ever. It's not catastrophic, but that is a general list that we have for the round of 32. After that, you can go look at the bracket yourself. I'm not going through all of that. I will say personally, a 2nd place finish and then a win in that knockout round, that 32 game, gets the U.S. here to Atlanta for a round of 16 games. So maybe I'm a little hopeful that we do finish 2nd and then win that.
I don't know, man.
But I would like us to win the group.
Played in Atlanta. It hadn't gone so great.
Yeah, well, if we make a round of 16, I think any expectation past that is probably asking too much. But we're not quite there yet. We talked about this in the opener. This was a short cycle. With November being where the World Cup, or I guess technically December, the World Cup ended back in 2022. You lost about 5 months of the cycle. And that did, I think, impact this team a lot for a couple of reasons. firstly, we started the new cycle without a head coach, and we went through 2 interim managers before
Did we?
rehiring the head coach. Yes, Lawrence. Technically, we did not have a head coach to start the cycle.
I have my doubts.
Okay. Greg Berhalter was rehired after our interim managers had won the Nations League, and then we did lose to Panama in the Gold Cup semifinals to start off the cycle. Greg gets rehired. We win the 2024 Nations League. We get grouped at the Copa America on home soil. Not great. And Greg is then fired. You can blame some of the players for the performance, but it was very clear that Greg had not prepared this team to perform well at a home major international tournament. And I think if you're looking at it saying, okay, well, your job is to do well at the World Cup we're hosting at home, and you don't do well at the next best tournament at home, you don't deserve to be here. So he's fired, and then Mauricio Pochettino, a big hire, is hired by U.S. Soccer. We were paying him buckets upon buckets of money, more than we've ever paid a head coach before. He takes over in October 2024. It has been up and down under Pochettino, I think, to be nice. And I mean that literally up and down. You have a dismal performance in the 2025 Nations League finals where you lose both games there. You lose in the semi and then the third place match. You go through a very chaotic period of upheaval and public clashes with star players and ousting of players who had the nerve to take the summer off for a little bit, which, you know, they were allowed to under the last coach. So why wouldn't they be able to on this coach? You bring in a team of guys who are pretty inexperienced to a Gold Cup. And yes, you make the final, but you still lose to Mexico. Things aren't feeling great. You end up losing to Korea in the first match friendly after that. And I think it's safe to say at that point in time, I was not feeling confident about this team. We do rebound. We get a win over Japan. Then we get a draw against Ecuador, a win against Australia, 2 wins in November against Paraguay. Again, team we just are about to play, and Uruguay. And then it falls down again in March. Maybe we just need to stop playing in March. That seems to be the problem. Falls down again in March where we lose 5-0 and 5-1 and 2-0 to Portugal to Belgium and Portugal. And then, like we just talked about, this window leading up to the World Cup a little bit more positive. A win against Senegal 3-2 and a 2-1 loss to Germany, but a good performance. So we arrive here after a lot of weird and inconsistent results, I would say. So let's just dive into that team. Lawrence, how do you feel about the team right now? Like, if we are recording 2 days before we start.
I feel, after all of that, I feel like quarterfinals is possible. Round of 16 is probable. But also leave room for round of 32 elimination is probably, I'll give us the same probability of being eliminated in the round of 32 as I do of us making the quarterfinals.
Interesting.
I cannot see a scenario where we get grouped. It would be a cataclysmic series of catastrophes would have to happen for us to get grouped. As negative as we've all been about this team at times, I think that would surpass even our worst nightmares.
Yeah.
And we all will tongue in cheek say, "Oh, they're getting grouped on home soil," and that's tongue in cheek.
I mean, there were a lot of people saying that after the roster release, which was dumb because it's like, now you think that we're getting grouped?
Yeah, and that's what the roster. The roster was, with maybe 3 exceptions, was about as good as I thought it could have been.
The player pool is the player pool.
I would have much preferred to see Diego Luna on there. I would much prefer to have not seen Christian Roldan on there, and I would be okay if I never saw Miles Robinson on there again. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of, there were no disastrous inclusions or exclusions like there were 4 years ago. We have justice for Ricardo Pepi. And oddly enough, I feel like goal scoring is probably going to be the strength of this team at this World Cup, because you've got all of your best goal scorers are in really good form right now, and you have several of them, which is not a luxury we have really had too terribly often in the past. The counterpoint to that is I could always count on us defensively. I don't know that I can count on us defensively going into this tournament, especially if Miles Robinson is on the field. If sitting Chris Richards for these two friendlies, absolutely 100% the correct thing to do, the smart thing to do, and I'm glad we did it. Whether he really had an injury, but whether he just needed the extra time off or not, I don't know. You give him the extra time off, because if Chris Richards can't go at this World Cup, shut it down. You're done. You're not going anywhere. So I feel like, again, just like it has been for the U.S. national team basically since 1994, it's probably going to be the round of 16. Now, at least this time around, you can hang your hat on, we won a knockout round game.
Yeah.
Although that has more to do with the tournament expanding than it does with the quality of the team. Much like, MLS loves to pat themselves. Look at all these teams we have make all these runs in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Well, that has to do with the fact that you added 20 spots, and 15 of those 20 spots went to MLS teams. Your win-loss record in games in Mexico was like 4-50. So don't tell me how the quality of MLS can compete with no. It has more to do with just expanding and just getting more teams in on the front end. But if they play like they did against Senegal and they play like they did against Germany, and they get a break or two, like, for example, they've already gotten a couple of breaks, pardon the pun. Some of Paraguay's best players are out injured. So that increases your chance of a win right there. Australia is a team, like I said, you played them last year and beat them. And then it comes down to the Turkey game. But to get to that point, you're going to have to do something the United States men's national team has not done since 1930. And that's win your first two games at the World Cup. I'm at a point now where I am comfortable putting where I think this team can go. 3 weeks ago, I had no idea. I could have seen 50 different possible scenarios, but I think round of 16 is the most likely endpoint for this team, which compared to what we were hoping for when Poch got hired, that may not be, what we were aiming for, but compared to how we were feeling in March, I think is a big upgrade.
Thomas, I think that what I want to ask you, and kind of what where I'm feeling with this team, and this is going to help phrase my answer to the question I just asked Lawrence, but I'm asking you, Thomas, are we better now than we are in 2022? We answered this a little bit last time, but looking at this, where we stand now.
Yeah, I would say we are. I mean, there's definitely areas that we have holes in, but I think overall, the players are better. If you look at the starting lineup in 2022, many of these players are returning, and they're in better form, and they've got 4 more years of experience underneath them. I think overall, they're probably a better team. I just think that certain areas need a little bit more coaching up, maybe to to understand where these are, because we definitely have some deficiencies in that defensive area and in front of that defensive area and in front of a goalie or whoever's going to be starting. Someone named Matt will be starting, I'm sure. But that's just
starting.
Yeah. But that's just not consistent. But the goalie situation is more undefined, but I don't think you have a better goalie in that area. But everything else, I think around it for the most part is better. With some exceptions, obviously, Ream is just 4 years in the wrong direction in age, as we've discussed before. So, but to Lawrence's point, I think the attack is really the strength of this team, right? I think they can score goals, and they can score a lot of them. And they might need to do that because of the deficiencies on defense to get through the group stage to get through and maybe deeper than we all hope they, go in the knockout stage. So I think I think a good offense would maybe be their best defense at this point. And I don't think we had that sort of firepower in 2022. I think we had more of just we had
Jordan Morris and Jesus Ferreira. What do you mean we didn't have that firepower in 2022?
And Josh Sargent.
Yes.
I kind of feel that answers my question to myself is like, I don't feel as confident as this team as I feel like I wanted to. Does that make sense? Because to your point, Thomas, we didn't improve as much as I thought we should have from 2022 to 2026. Now, a lot of that is on the players. I think that, there are players who did not take steps forward that they needed to. And then there are some players who were on that young age at the 2022 who, didn't quite progress the way they needed to. You can even look at guys on this roster like Gio Reyna, who I still think is a phenomenal player, never got himself right as a professional in the 4 years between the two World Cups, right? The same issues we had with Gio in 2022 exist now. He's just slightly a little bit older. So I think that's where I'm at is like, yeah, I'm confident in this team. But I think why I'm not willing to say, oh, we can make a semifinal. And I'm saying that just as like a delusional US fan homer type thing is because I'm going, but like, if last time we only made the round of 16, last time we got out of the group, right? We finished second, we got out of the group. How much better are we this year? Is it winning the group? Okay. If you tell me, if I tell myself, winning the group is what we can do this year, which I don't think was a realistic possibility in 2022, then that's good. And that does, I think, lead us to more success in the knockouts. Obviously, it gives you a much easier round of 32 matchup, and then potentially a better round of 16 matchup. But I just don't know if we're as much better as I wanted us to be. And that's why I'm a little concerned. But if I look at the actual team, I go, no, this team is pretty darn good. There are flaws. It's the US. Of course, there's going to be flaws. We're not France. We're not Argentina. We're not Spain. But, this team is good. There are very good players on this team. I think a lot of the turbulence during the cycle, plus the fact that we did not have qualification this cycle, didn't really give us a chance to see what this team really can do. And that's why I think I'm a little like, I don't know about this team right now. So my next question, and Thomas, I'll let you answer this first because I know Lawrence will have some answers, is did Pochettino, who again was brought in mid-cycle because we fired a coach, did he solve the problems that Berhalter left?
I think more problems came up after he left that Berhalter wouldn't have had to deal with because he already knew the player pool. So I think he had a whole set of problems that arise as a result of that he had to address. And there was accountability. There was all sorts of these other things. I think Berhalter, maybe because he was buddy in that second time around with these players, as opposed to the hard neck coach he was maybe in the first cycle that he was coach, Pochettino had to say, hey, no, I understand that's the way it was, but this is not the way it's going to be. You want to miss the Gold Cup? Sorry, you're going to lose your chance to be part of this team for the rest of the cycle and miss your World Cup opportunities. Like because I think there was an expectation a lot of these players weren't going to have to play the Gold Cup. We've talked about that, and I think he's fixed some of that. I think we're just seeing it come to fruition now, as Lawrence said, just now and maybe just in time. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, because it's this team has we've had moments where we're like, oh, okay, they're getting it, they're figuring it out, the 3-back thing. End of September, October windows, better, getting results. We beat Uruguay, right? So you kind of had that momentum and some things to hang your hat on, and then the March window comes, and you're like, oh, geez. And so, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard to get up for a March window. Like the June one, you're there. This is your tune-up at this point. This is the group that's going to be there. So let's do it. And I think that's where he had a hard time kind of bringing it all together. And when you're the host nation too, that's a hard thing to manage. I mean, with a club that's good enough to do this. And so the challenges, I think he is getting a lot out of these players, and hopefully he can get even more out of them to, that Berhalter wasn't able to pull out of them, because I think he has an expectation. And if you watch the HBO documentary, to me, it's a very touching moment when he breaks down in the locker room. If you haven't seen it, sorry, spoiler alert. Punch after they lose the Gold Cup, Punchio just breaks down and crying. He's like, I love this game. It's my life. And he just has that moment, and you can just see that he is invested in this. He wants it so badly. Like, you know what I mean? And all his, expectations have value and they have a purpose. And I think that's where, maybe things are just starting to come together a little bit, in that way, for the players, because, this guy, he loves this group. He loves, the United States right now, and he's all in.
Yeah, I think I was concerned about his commitment level, to say the least. And maybe not commitment to the job, but just like commitment to the U.S., which is a fair, whatever. I do feel like he has bought into that. But, Lawrence, I think at the end of Berhalter's reign, and what we saw manifesting a lot was basically, unless they were playing Mexico, this team kind of had been checked out. They were going through the motions from a player standpoint, which isn't the fault of the manager, I will say. A lot of that is on the players. Y'all got to show up and fight. But it did seem like Berhalter did not evolve enough with the player pool from a cool uncle maybe to guiding father, if that makes sense. I do think Pochettino got a little bit more strict. He, I think one of the criticisms of Greg was there was a lot of complacency and a lack of competition. But competition can only do so much when the players are who the players are. So I'm just curious how you really, I mean, I know you love Greg Berhalter.
Yes.
You love talking about Greg Berhalter anyway, but do you think Pochettino truly rectified a lot of the issues that we had at the end of the Berhalter regime?
So it's funny, and I don't think it's necessarily yes or no, as strange as that sounds.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
It's, as much as I would love to say yes, because he's a genius and Berhalter's a bum, I don't think it's quite that simple. I think initially it looked like he had immediately fixed it. And this goes back to a point that I have made several times with you guys before about how the players always say the right things and they're just saying them to say them, not because they necessarily believe them. And you go back to those first October 2024 friendlies where every player is like, man, we hadn't trained that hard in a long time. And it's different now. And like all the stuff that the regular national guys, like the talking points that get distributed, they're like, okay, here's what we're all writing about today. The players were all saying the same thing that the guys were writing. So it was like, yeah, he's come in and there's competition now and the practices are hard. And, you won 5 out of your first 6 games in charge. And, by the way, Mauricio Pochettino, it took him 2 tries to equal Greg's CONCACAF away wins record. But then March happens. March of 25, I should say. March of 25 happens. And then that slides into June of 25, where you lose to Turkey and then you get your heads taken off by Switzerland. And you're just like, you've lost 4 games in a row. And you're like, okay, so we're all this time in now. We're basically where we were when you took over. So I think what you can chalk it up to initially was the new coach bump. Like you see it happen at the club level all of the time. hey, oh, we're in a relegation fight. Let's fire the dude, and we've got 10 games left, and the new guy comes in and he wins 6 of them, and you're like, oh, this dude's awesome. Let's make him the manager for next season, and then you fire him at Christmas because you're in another relegation scrap. I think that's sort of what we saw the first half. And then, so I was surprised not to see Pochettino crying. I was surprised that everybody seems to have forgotten that video came out like the day after the Gold Cup final. Like that was in their behind the curtain or behind the scene or whatever the hell their in-house propaganda documentary is. This is an out-of-house propaganda documentary that HBO has been doing. Though, hand up, I watched every minute of every episode and did enjoy it. But I think him breaking down in the locker room like that was the moment where they were like, where the players said, okay, it's time for us to get our act together and start actually. And then I don't think it's a coincidence that September window, you didn't look great against South Korea, but then you looked really good against Japan. And then, you finished the year out unbeaten. Now, Thomas mentioned the March window. And this kind of came to me probably a couple of weeks ago, but I do wonder if the March window was a complete, MacGuffin, where Pochettino knows back three, that's what we're doing. But you go into that March window and, these are 2 games that we're probably going to lose and we're probably going to look bad because these are really good teams. So I don't want to use the formation that we're going to use at the World Cup and get our teeth kicked in with it, because then we're going to have to reevaluate. So we're going to do something else, and then we can always fall back on what we know works. So I wonder if that was if they just were writing the March window off in terms of results, and we're going to see what players, stepped up and did what they needed to do. That's where my mind has started to go, because that's probably where you've got yourself thinking this formation is working, and then all of a sudden you play 2 really good teams and you look terrible, and then you have to go, man, does this formation really actually work? And then you're going to have no confidence in it when the games really start to matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's what they went back to for these 2, this Senegal and this Germany game. And they looked just as good as they did in the fall. But I think we now finally are at a point where a lot of what was broken under Greg Berhalter has been fixed as far as complacency and attitude and effort and all of that. And I have much more faith in Mauricio Pochettino's tactical ability and motivational ability than I ever did in Greg Berhalter's. And I know you mentioned, he's kind of like the cool uncle I would like, and he's more of the creepy, weird uncle. And I'd always thought that anyway. But then you watch this HBO documentary, and he's like he's like very clearly very uncomfortable with using curse words, and is like trying so hard to be cool in front of the team. It's like, we know we gotta fucking get in there, and we knew the ref was gonna be shit, and it's, dude, just say it. Yeah, we gotta fucking get in there. Yeah, it's a shit ref. Like, just say it like any other normal coach and any non-weirdo would say it. He's like such a creepy, weird tryhard. So I and he never evolved the players because I don't think he ever had the ability to do so. I think what he did in the first cycle was about as good as it was ever going to get with him.
I think it was about as good as you were going to get, period. I mean that sincerely. This team maybe could have won a knockout round game if they get a slightly better matchup and an opponent. But you got out of the group. Great. I am curious because I kind of agree that my big stance is I do think Mauricio Pochettino is a better soccer coach than Greg Berhalter. I don't think that's like a hot take over here. The dude who has made a Champions League final is better than a guy who's never won a trophy during his entire managerial career.
0 for 19. I keep the tweet bookmarked for use at all times.
I can always come to you on Greg Berhalter, not slander because it's true. But I do think that he has found a way to get back a little bit of the urgency the team needs to play with. But I keep coming back to this, that it felt like a lot of bluster for us to kind of end up with about the same roster you're probably going to get. There was some turnover, but I mean, he brought in Max Arston. Cool. Brought in Alex Freeman. I don't think that took a stroke of genius to bring in the best young right back in MLS into a training camp.
And that is where I have always been willing to give Greg Berhalter his flowers, is that in that first cycle, he recruited his ass off.
He tried. He
was out there pounding the pavement. He was at trainings. He was visiting clubs, and he was always trying to get dual nationals to pick the U.S.
Yeah.
That is probably the best thing he did in his time as the U.S. manager, was go out and recruit all these dual nationals. And I can't quite say excelled, but he was very good at it.
Yeah.
When you hire Mauricio Pochettino, you're not hiring him to do that. You're hiring him because you need some sex appeal and you need somebody who knows how to win games so that you can have a deep run at the World Cup. That brings up the question, which we've kind of already talked about, but like, who's the next coach going to be and what's that going to look like? And I'm not worried about
Jim
that
Curtin.
right now. No, it's not. And I could have sworn, I said it's going to be one of three guys. It's going to be Jim Curtin, Brian Schmetzer, or Steve Cherundolo. And so Curtin's gone. So we're down to two.
Well, that's a conversation for after the tournament because, which, by the way, I have no problem with this. Pochettino's talking. Pochettino himself may not be talking, but Pochettino's camp is talking to other people, and which he should. Like that, I have no problem.
We all knew that was the score when he got hired.
Yeah. His job was to get us to and through the World Cup. Hopefully he just has to stay on the job a little bit longer. That's all we're asking for. When you look at this roster, Lawrence, I'll kick this right back to you. Which of the stars on this team do you think are going to rise up in this tournament?
I think Chris Richards will rise up. Rise up in the sense that he's going to be potentially battling through an injury, and that we are a better team with him on the field than we are without him on the field. I want to say Weston McKennie or Tyler Adams, but Tyler Adams has just been probably the same player since he showed up with the national team, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But he is what he is.
He's one of those I wish would have improved. Wish he would have got another club in the bag.
Yeah, and he's had injuries, and I think that's part of what has held that development back. I want to say Weston McKennie, but he is just so hit and miss between camps and windows, and there'll be a stretch where there will be a stretch where he's the greatest player in Juventus history, and then inevitably we've got to get rid of this dude. We cannot keep this dude at our club anymore. And then 3 weeks later, it's like Juve for life. And the same thing with the national team. It's like, how did we ever play as a national team without this dude? And then you look at Copa America, where the fastest he ran through the whole tournament was away from me in the mixed zone after the Panama game. And so I can't pick him. I'm not picking Christian Pulisic. Sorry. I don't care what he did in the Senegal game. I think that's more of an aberration. That was the law of averages says typically the best player on the team is not going to go 2 years without scoring a goal. So I think he was just due. I think that has a lot more to do with the law of averages than it does with him breaking out of his funk or whatever, not being Captain Sad Pants. But for me, you know what? I'm going to go. For me, we've talked about how good we think the attackers are. I think it's going to be Balogun. That is
still mine.
He well, sorry. I was gonna say either him or Pepe, and I know Pepe's going to come in because he didn't get to go 4 years ago when he should have gone 4 years ago, and he was the only reason Greg Berhalter was able to be the coach in Qatar, and he didn't get to go. And he will forever be a hero of mine because when Greg called him and was like, "Let me explain to you why I'm not taking you," click, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Much love, Ricardo Pepi. But for me, it's Balogun. He got a goal against Senegal. He looked good He scored a bunch of goals in the fall. He's been very good at his club all season. No significant valleys, and that's one of the that was one of the players that when he picked the U.S. over, was it Belgium? It was France or Belgium? England.
Yeah,
that's who he could have picked. And that was a lot of the dual nationals. I'm just like, yeah, you're probably picking us because you got no shot to play for the other team. But when he picked us, that was a big deal. And he was our best player at Copa America, which doesn't really say a whole lot for the other guys. But that's who. If I'm Mauricio Pochettino, I'm going to hitch my wagon to Fuller and Balogun, and I think he is going to pull that wagon quite far.
Thomas, which of our stars do you think are going to rise up this tournament? You can pick one or two, but
No, I'm gonna throw a curveball here, and this is wishful thinking. It's not specific until it becomes official.
I know who it is,
but to me it's a goalkeeper named Matt, and whoever that Matt is has to have a hell of a tournament for this team to do great things. And as much as I have my preference of who I think is the better keeper and who is the better choice, I will back.
Who is an actually better goal shot stopper. Yeah.
Yes, I will back whoever is chosen there. Reluctantly, I guess, to a point, but I just think it's the biggest stage in the world, and I think if you can't perform on it, then your star is going to fall pretty rapidly, and we may never see you again. If it's Matt Freese, right? Because Turner, we know, can do it, and that he had some great saves in that. Yeah, when we had some great saves in that Senegal match, he really did. He played very well in that game, and that, to me, that kind of, for me, stamped it. I'm like, okay, he's back to what he at least was in 2022, maybe even a touch better. But that's my choice. I know that's probably not a sexy choice, but I think it's to me, I think that's what we need to see. And the other one I would maybe add is maybe Serginho Dest. He's going to be playing at a different position, clearly, and he's definitely creating a lot of havoc in the attack, which I love to see. And he could have a hell of a tournament if he's getting service from Pulisic and like he did again in that Senegal game, which was just a fabulous connection.
To your point about the goalkeepers, I'll take it back to talking about, has Mauricio Pochettino fixed what Greg Berhalter left in a very bad state? I know Mauricio Pochettino is now a big fan of the movie Miracle. And if you remember in the movie Miracle, Kurt Russell brings in, they're halfway through the whole camps and all of this stuff, getting ready for the Olympics, and he brings in this dude who's nobody's seen in 6 months. He brings in Timmy Hara, and all the players what's going on? What's going on? And he makes all of them play better and come together. I do wonder if there's been a little bit of that with Mauricio Pochettino. That may explain Diego Luna's absence from this roster. If you bring this guy in throughout all of 2025 and his presence finally gets these players to start performing to the level that they're capable of performing. And I also do wonder if, basically giving every game to Matt Freese for the last year is somehow, some way lit some sort of fire under Matt Turner and gotten his head where it needs to be, so that he can perform at this World Cup the way that he performed at the last one.
Yeah. Turner has definitely improved his club play, mainly because he's playing. Yeah. But I think, that we do not have a starting goalkeeper chosen yet. I think Thomas and I both agree that either Matt will be fine. I just think there's a higher chance that we have better performances from Matt Turner. So you don't know. I think the Serginho Dest shout is interesting because he is playing in a newer position, right? Under Berhalter, he was definitely the right back, and especially behind Tim Weah, who was the one providing the width and the verticality, to use a Berhalter term, on that right side. Now Dest is that width, and he is being pushed up high. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to play a wing back, and they're like, no, you're playing a winger. And I do think that I mean, he's playing wing back. He's playing on the right side of midfield, so let's not get crazy. But I think that will enable him to be the saucy man that he loves to be, and take more chances and play with more flair. And yeah, he scored the opener against Senegal, and those are opportunities for him that I think he might relish. I think my star was going to be Balogun, because as you pointed out, he was our best player at Copa America. I think his pedigree at Arsenal, his pedigree now with AS Monaco, he understands what it means to be the dude whose job it is to score the goals for a team trying to do something. Because Monaco is a team that does want to try to win things. Not Ligue 1, because no one can do that, because PSG spends an entire country's GDP on players, but good for them. It does feel like he understands that pressure. So I think both of those guys really have an opportunity to take us to the next level, which builds on my answer to the next question. Thomas, what's your biggest concern for us in this tournament?
I mean, it's clearly the defense. I mean, we've seen
it's the defense.
I mean, it's just the defense. If you want to throw the keeper into that mix, fine, throw him in there. But it's the defense. I mean, it's been horrible. And maybe it's slightly improved with having Tyler Adams back there. A little bit, but well, I say slightly, because they're not marking player. I mean, players are running free. It's crazy. There's no organization back there, and it just clear that we just don't have the quality depth there. Hopefully, Richards helps with that. It's got to be more than a little, right? Because I mean, we saw what Miles Robinson did, and that was, I mean, I wanted him.
Didn't do.
Yeah, I wanted to love Miles Robinson, but he just hasn't been the same player since he got injured 4 years ago, right? And he's definitely just.
There's a reason Cincinnati is my least favorite C in Ohio.
Yeah, it's past his prime on that, and I think I don't want to see him again with a national team at all. But I think that's where I still think that's where it is. You've got inexperience. You've got extra age, inexperience, and you've got a player that's pretty good. Kind of in the middle of those two, and I think that's a real tough spot to be in, right? Because Ream was just god awful too, right? And
he's 100.
Yeah, I mean he just made he's not able to do the things he was able to do 4 years ago. He's just he's 4 years older, and it's showing. And I look, I have no problem with him being named captain, but to me, a captain doesn't have to have the armband and be starting, in my opinion, to be captain. And when Pochettino did that for that player, you kind of put yourself in a situation where he's locked in starter at this point. And I think that's a poor coaching point, I think, on that.
We'd all made the point on here several times that Diego Luna was Poch's guy. And watching this HBO doc, it's pretty clear that from day one, Tim Ream has really been Poch's guy. Anytime Poch is having a deeper tactical or motivational conversation with a single player, it is always with Tim Ream. So that's his guy. So he's the captain, which, like you said, I'm with, is fine, but you can't put him on the field for 90 minutes for 5 games straight. That is a really good way to get run off the field in that fifth and final game. Because I've made the point, half jokingly, half seriously, where I don't think I could win a foot race with Tim Ream, given that he's a professional athlete and I'm not. But I feel like at this point I could keep it respectable in a foot race with Tim Ream.
What's your head? How much of a head start would you need to actually win it? And it does feel like it's not that much.
But unfortunately for the U.S. men's national team, I don't play for Paraguay or Australia or Turkey. So
it's definitely the defense, right? That is the most from a player standpoint. There are concerns because outside of Chris Richards, the center backs aren't great. I'm concerned about Tillman or who play next to Adams, as we saw against Germany, or Berhalter playing next to Adams, who looked not great against Senegal, or Rodan playing against next to him. Like that's concerning. But when you look at the numbers, since Pochettino has taken over, in the 26 games he has managed with this team, we have given up 1.42 goals per game. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but in a World Cup, that's a problem.
And historically,
World Cup games are not.
When you're a country that doesn't score a lot of goals at the World Cup, you're not going to be, I don't want to be in a position where I have to be Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma football, and my defense gives up 50, so I have to score 60 every game. I don't want to be there.
We have absolutely scored a lot more under Pochettino. That's fine. And those aren't the inflated Gold Cup numbers necessarily. Like, we have scored a lot of goals. I don't think we are as bad as a 5-2 loss to Belgium. Like, I don't think that is again, you take your best day, you take your worst day, you throw those out. But it's a real problem that this team gives up goals, and more importantly, gives up chances pretty easily. So to kind of Thomas's point is, whoever's in goal is going to have to make some big saves.
And
I'm not saying they need to be Tim Howard level
of the attacker.
Yeah, like it. You can't rely on, especially a team like Paraguay or Australia, both teams who are more than happy to not let you play easily through them. It's not smart to rely on scoring a couple goals a game. That's all I'm saying. And it feels like we're bound to give up a goal each game. We haven't had that many clean sheets under Pochettino. We had 2 in the Gold Cup, only 2. We had the clean sheet against Japan. Okay. Haven't done anything really outside of that. And that to me, that is concerning. I think that is the biggest concern, and to be truthful, the biggest step backwards we've taken under Pochettino compared to Berhalter, because Berhalter teams, that 2001 Gold Cup, we won every game. I feel like 1-0 outside of
we won 5 of the 6 1-0.
We beat like Trinidad or whatever 6-0, and everything else is 1-0. That's my concern. So there's your stats for you. It's 1.4 goals a game. It's not good. It's not good. I don't think it'll necessarily be that bad, but that points to us giving up about a goal in each of these 3 games. And when you do talk about a group that is going to be very tight because all teams are good, giving up an easy goal to Paraguay to go from a 1-0 hard-fought win to a 1-1 draw, that's not great, So that is my biggest concern.
Yeah, I can see them giving up a late goals, having a 2-goal lead and then giving up a late goal, type of, yeah, you know what I mean? I can just see that. Hey, we're a better team and everything, and they just can't get that third goal, and then it's instead of you had that 2-0 lead.
Yeah, look, instead of a 2-goal difference versus a 1-goal difference in a game like that could be the difference between winning the group and finishing second.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I think that's where what we haven't seen, I think, that I maybe wanted to see, but maybe we could have seen it against Senegal, is like, what's your lockdown defense look like? You know what I mean? Like in the last 10 minutes, like what does that look like for the U.S.? Obviously they were fighting back in that match, and they did get that they got the 3-2, so they could have maybe done that, but that was a weird game anyway. He used 11 subs in that second half, so maybe he has something in mind that we'll just see when the time comes. But you'll need something to park that bus or whatever it's going to do to prevent any sort of late match goal that could impact your positioning in the group, because that is a concern.
Okay, we all agree that the biggest concern is defense, so that's fair. This, before we get into predictions, this is my last question. What does a successful tournament look like to you, Lawrence? And I kind of want you to think beyond just results, but what does a successful tournament look like to you?
Good results paired with good performances. Like, they need to be a team that's fun to watch.
100%.
And one of the local media guys here, when referencing the Memphis Tiger football team under Ryan Silverfield, is like, when you're at a program like Memphis, you cannot be both boring and bad. Like, if you're going to be bad, you need to be at least, entertaining enough to continue to watch. And if you're going to be boring, you need to win every single game.
Yeah.
And so, you got to capture the hearts and minds of a country. A deep run in the tournament does that, but a deep run with some sizzle does that even better. So luckily, it does seem like we're going to have to try to win some of these games shootout style, 3-2, 4-3, 4-2, 3-1. I don't know how many games you win doing that, but if that's the route that we have to go, I think that would go, and if we do end up winning them that way, that would go a long way towards bringing more new people in and keeping them here, and doing a lot to dispel 0-0 boring soccer, blah. So you need to, and I honestly think you probably do need to have, it can't be by committee. You do need to have like a true breakout star, like somebody that national media and commercial companies can hitch their wagon to. Like in 2002, that was Landon Donovan. And we haven't really had a star break out during the World Cup for the U.S. Dempsey was already kind of that dude before various World Cups.
I think he did break out in 2006 with the goal against Ghana and the celebration and everything. Okay. But I agree with your general point.
So if you have, you've already made Pulisic the face of the franchise. So, and he's in the Mick Ultra commercials and all these commercials, he's nutmegging.
He's on the posters. He was on the posters here in Atlanta in 2024.
If he finally because let's be real, outside of the ever shrinking U.S. men's national team fandom, nobody knows or cares who the hell Christian Pulisic is.
Yeah.
So if you're the U.S. men's national team, you need to win all your games in the group stage. You need to look good doing it. You need to score a few goals, and you need to have your best player and face of the franchise be that dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would make a very successful World Cup for the U.S.
Thomas, kind of same question, right? Beyond just make the semifinals or whatever. What do you think equals success for this team and this program in this tournament?
Well, if you look at any of the tournaments, I've been watching this since 1994, right? And so any of the tournaments that they've made the knockout stage, right? And that obviously has to happen in this tournament.
Absolutely.
Every match they've played except for 2022 has been a 1-goal differential match. So they've been in the game, or they won the game. Obviously, in 2002 they beat Mexico in one of those knockout stage matches. But they have to be in the game, right? They've got to have a chance to win. And two of those matches in 2010 and 2014, they went to extra time, right? So it's that holy crap, I can see it, I can taste it, we're almost there, right? Type of moment. And I think that's what that's gonna pull them in. It's holy crap, there's a chance. I didn't feel that way against Netherlands. They were tired. They didn't have it. And so to me, that chance, and obviously that's got to have to get past the round of 32.
Yeah, I get what you're like. We're talking like round of 16 or quarterfinal. If you're like, wow, we made the quarters,
right,
and we lost in extra time because we scored a goal in the 100.
Right.
I get what you.
Germany in 02, right? I mean, it could be something that's uncontrollable, but you want to feel like we had a chance. We had our chances, and we just couldn't do that, right? And I think that will be.
I mean, people still feel that way about the Belgium game from 2014.
Well, they do because before you went to extras, though, that's the thing. Like you had Wando's chance, like he misses it, right?
Chance.
And then they got smoked in the
offside flag was up, guys. Go back and listen to Ian.
I mean, 100%, Lawrence. But I mean, again, it felt like there was a chance, right? Even though it was like, well, yeah, we had a chance because Tim Howard played the best game of any goalkeeper ever, and we probably shouldn't be in a position for that to happen. But
I frequently wonder. I frequently wonder what happens the rest of that tournament if we don't give up the last-minute equalizer against Portugal. Is your headspace? You 2 out of 2 wins. You are in a much better headspace going into the Germany game. Maybe you get a draw, in which case you probably still finish second in the group no, you'd have 7 points to their 5. So you win the group. You play Algeria in the next round.
Yeah.
And then who did Germany play in the
or even if it's even if you do go into the final match day like, oh man, if we just beat Germany or whatever, but you're like, oh man, they beat us because they're still Germany and we try. Like I totally understand what you're saying of like that giving up a stupid goal like that at the final death to Portugal it did change the outcome of the tournament.
It did. That was brutal. I mean, they Germany after Algeria, they beat France 1-0, and then they smoked Brazil.
I don't think we would have beaten Brazil 7-1.
No. And I'm not
Damn it, I'd like to try though.
Give us a shot. I know, right? I mean, 7-1. I mean, that was a whole other thing.
I have never been more in shock watching a soccer game in my life. It was just like, and the funny thing was, I was at my desk, and my boss in the next office over, his feed was about 10 seconds ahead of mine, and so like when Germany got like number 4, he was like, I heard from the other office go, uh-oh. I'm like, what? And then number 4 goes in. I'm like, oh, this is insane. And then they got 5. I was like, holy smokes. We've lost cabin pressure.
That was a thorough undressing.
Yeah, because Brazil scored a late goal in that late game. So, I mean, really should have been 7-0, really. I think there was a 89th minute goal or whatever.
And Neuer was so pissed, too. He was so mad.
Because, I mean, nothing was his fault. Like, what's he supposed to do? It was like, he was so mad. He's like, what? Like, so mad at his defenders in front of him. God, he was so mad. I love that. I take both of what you're saying, and I think I'm going to try to make an amalgamation of it and just say, you need to play good soccer, win probably 3 to 4 games. I think that's fair. You need to win probably 3 games in this tournament, I would say, which is a lot for the U.S. soccer team. Like, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever done that in any of the so you need to play good. I think you need to win 3 games, and that probably gets you to the round of 16, maybe the quarters, depending on how you space those wins out. And I think, to your point, Lawrence, I think what I envision, and I don't mean this like, hopefully this is kind of what I actually do kind of see happening, is this tournament will inspire a lot of people to watch soccer more. I truly do believe that, because U.S. sports fan loves a player. They love a personality, they love identities, and they might go, damn, that, I don't know, who's an actually entertaining person in world football. I mean, Erling Haaland maybe is a great example of like a dude who has like just charisma when you watch him on the field and you're like, holy shit, that guy's good. He's obviously a very well-known player, but you know what I mean? Julian Alvarez, maybe from Argentina, is another one. And they go, man, just love that dude. And they follow him now, and they don't really care about his team or whatever. They care about Julian Alvarez. There's going to be a lot of people who latch onto a player like that. And I just hope there's a good sizable chunk of Americans who do latch on to a U.S. player in that regard. Might be Pulisic, it might be McKinney, it might be Balogun, depending on who has the best tournament, right? It could be, it could be Gio Reyna. Maybe he has a good tournament. It very well could be Serginho Dest. They watch him play, like, this dude is awesome, because he is. And I kind of think, to me, that's what I hope the success is in the long term, is it's just enough to make them go, I like that dude. And then therefore they then will root for the US, because when they come back and play for the US, they'll be like, oh yeah, Serginho Dest is here. Great. I want to go see him play. That's what I think is the path forward to success, because we keep talking about how do you win sports fans. And I just don't think that's a real necessity for the sport to be successful in this country. But there's a way for you to win over sports fans that will make them more soccer connected than they already are. And I think that's probably the best way to do it.
And one thing I do want to add to, and kind of to that point, is you need a moment, like that moment. You need
Jedi's goal against Germany. No one cares that we lost because SportsCenter is showing the goal, right?
But to bigger picture, like Landon Donovan versus Algeria,
100%, yeah, like
Abby Wambach 2011 versus Brazil. Then you had, John Brooks against Ghana in 2014. Like, you need, or even Clint Dempsey. I can tell you, in my 32 years on this earth, I've watched a lot of soccer. I've watched a lot of American soccer, US men. I've watched a lot of other sports, football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I have never been more jacked in my life as a sports fan than when Clint Dempsey scored 30 seconds into that game against Ghana. And it was a culmination of, that's the team that put you out of the last 2 World Cups. You scored 30 seconds into a game, which doesn't happen very often, but that was also really the first cycle where I had been there since the first minute of the first game through the last minute of the last game. Like, I watched every minute of that cycle through all the ups and downs. And, it felt, going into that tournament, you had a very charismatic manager, and it felt like anything was possible. And to get that goal 30 seconds in the game, like the guttural, visceral, raw reaction of me just like screaming at the top of my lungs and Dan McGinnis in South Haven was that moment. And then we just happened to have another one of those in that same game. And as far as like moments, this generation of players doesn't have one.
No. No, they do. They do, Lawrence.
The 21 Nations League final against Mexico.
Nations League final. That's the moment, right?
But there's a lot of stuff that works. That was on a channel that nobody can watch, and there was there were COVID seating capacity restrictions.
Again, in a round of 16 match on Big Fox in what at that point I think will be in Seattle, which is probably a very pro-US crowd. Yes. So that's my point. Like, I get what you're saying, but that is the moment for this team. And but I take your point. Like, it was on Paramount Damn Plus. Like, no one knew what was going on, and no one knew what the fuck the champions, the Nations League was at that point in time. But that was their moment. We haven't had a moment since 2021.
Yeah,
and it's 2026. Like, so, but give me something like that in a knockout round.
Dramatic last minute.
That's gonna yeah. So, all right. Time for predictions, boys. So I'm going to give you a double prediction for the first one. Lawrence, how do we finish Group D, and how far do we make it?
We top the group on goal difference with 7 points.
That's fair. That's a good. That's a great group phase.
We make it we win our round of 32 game, tough, ugly, close game, closer than it needs to be, and we lose in the round of 16. But the round of 16 loss will look like the round of 16 losses in Brazil and South Africa, and not like the disinterested, completely fish out of water round of 16 loss in Qatar.
Interesting. Thomas?
I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna say we win the group. I don't know. I think Lawrence has the right number of points there. At least I'm going to say they get a hell of a lucky draw when it comes to the knockout stage, and they lose in the quarterfinals. I know it's a hell of a reach, but I guess
it's a lot more fun to be optimistic.
Yeah, I just want it so badly. Like, I just want it so badly because I mean, I just want to. There's nothing worse in that gut in your stomach when your team is out of the World Cup. It's the way. I mean, I felt it every single time, and there's nothing worse as a soccer fan to watch your international club just they're out, they're done, it's over. And most times it feels like it's over before it should have been, right? And I think if they get to the quarters, I'll be like, I'm happy with it, like because to me that's a reach that I think if it all comes together, they can remain healthy and they can figure it out as they go through. The women do that a lot. They kind of figure it out through the group stage and then they just roll. And that's not the best example because they are the best in the world, but maybe this group can find that lightning in a bottle.
So I think we can win Group D. I almost want to say we will because I think when I look at these three opponents that we played, it's very fair to say we did not play them with our best players. And I don't think that the other teams can say that they were missing so many players or such good of quality players that they can somehow magically be back. Does that make sense? Like when we played Turkey, who we played only lost 2-1 and played pretty darn good against. I mean, that was a Gold Cup squad that, yes, featured Freeze. Yeah, but like, yes, Richards and Adams and Freeze were, but like, man, that was not a strong squad. I think we have the ability to raise our game against a team like Turkey. I think when you look at the Paraguayan and Australia games, again, not playing our strongest teams that we could. I think these are. I don't know if we win all three games, but I think we can win the group because I do think 7 points wins this group. My struggle is if we win our group, we win our round of 32 match pretty easy. Our round of 16 match is likely against Belgium.
I just don't earlier this year.
I just don't see us beating Belgium, right? Like, again, we just saw this happen. I don't think it's 5-2. But I think we saw that there's a gap between the two teams.
But remember, the Russians beat the hockey team pretty heavily,
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just
and two things. I've made the point that not only last year, but historically, we have typically beaten Paraguay. We beat them in 2018 after we missed the World Cup, and we beat them at Copa America Centenario in 2016. So that's a team we know we can beat. And the same thing with Australia. We beat them last year. We beat them in the final pre-World Cup friendly in South Africa in 2010. Yeah. Belgium's the opposite. Every time we play them, we lose. They beat us this year. They beat us in Brazil. They beat us in Cleveland in 2013, and they beat us in Brussels in 2011. And none of those games were like, incredible games where we had every chance in the world and just couldn't pull it off. No, like they were pretty dominant from start to finish in all four of those games. But also to Thomas's point, he mentioned the Miracle on Ice team, and that just got me thinking, how will this country respond and climb on to this team? We're seeing it now in the NHL with the way the TV ratings have been. Through after the Olympics, after Team USA, both the men and the women won gold against Canada in overtime. I mean, you want to talk about moments? Those are your moments right there. Yeah, I still get chills. I still watch those. I still get chills. And the Stanley Cup playoffs are having their best ratings since before the 2004 lockout. So, that's what's possible if you have magical moments and a very impressive deep run in this tournament. That's what you're looking at in the short term, and then in the long term, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, so that's just my problem is if I say which I think we can win the group, I'm going, that's great. We win our round of 32. We're probably playing Belgium. I don't like those odds. If we finish second in the group and we win our round of 32 match, we're probably playing Argentina. I definitely don't like those odds. But I do think that this team absolutely can make a quarterfinal. Does that make sense? The problem is the round of 32 matchups that we're probably going to have are really, really tough. and that's gonna be tough. So I think a round of 16 exit makes sense, but I do think that winning the round of 32 match gives us a little bit more momentum and something to hang our hat on, because you do win a knockout round game. That's not nothing. But ultimately, it's going to go to another round of 16 exit.
Yep.
And that's just unfortunately how the bracket works for us in this. We're
with the third place teams, there's so many different permutations. That was the beauty of the 32 team World Cup. You could pretty easily plot out what a bracket would look like, or what the best case scenario would be, what the worst case scenario would be. I haven't even tried to do that because there's so many variables with third place teams. Although it's worth noting, the 94 team was a third place team.
Yes, they were,
and their reward was to play Brazil. I also wonder how differently that game goes if Tab Ramos doesn't have to leave the game and the U.S. doesn't have to burn that sub so early.
Yeah.
With his skull getting cracked open.
Oof. All right.
I believe one point. I believe Italy was a third place team as well in that group.
Oh yeah.
That's right, because they lost to Ireland to start the tournament.
Yeah. The group that had
they're also Italy though.
Yeah, and they had all the teams in that group had 4 points each, and then they went on to to go to the final. So
they also had the worst haircut in the history of soccer. That ludicrous rat tail from Roberto.
It was very in at the time.
It was. All right, last prediction. This is not the USMNT unless you want to make it about the USMNT. Who wins it all, Thomas? Who wins the whole shebang?
I've gone back and forth with this. I have Spain and England in the final, and I have Spain winning it.
Interesting.
Euro 24 rematch.
I want a little bit different. I mean, there's some good matchups there.
I'll answer it this way. This is cheating a little bit, but I don't think England is going to go far. They're not built for the heat. They're already complaining. Like, they have an amazing squad on paper, and they had an amazing squad on paper going to Brazil in 2014, and they were the worst team in the group. I don't think they'll quite be that bad, but I don't think they get past the round of 16. They're not built for this heat. They're going to melt. Same thing with Germany. They're lucky. I think they got a pretty easy group, but I don't think they get past the quarterfinals.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 teams that I think can win it: Brazil, just because they're Brazil, even though this is probably a low point for Brazilian soccer.
Hey, they won it the last time it was here, so.
Brazilian soccer is at such a low point, they had to hire somebody who's not Brazilian to be their coach for the first time ever. Now, they also just happened to hire the greatest European club manager in the history of the game. But so Brazil, because they're always going to be talented enough to do it. It's just a question of whether they actually do or not, or whether they find a way to give it away. Argentina, just because they're the reigning champs, they still got Messi, as old as he is. France and Spain, just because they're too good to not. And I'm going to go a little bit on the outside here. I also think Colombia's got a shot.
Colombia's my dark horse, and for the same reason. It's just like, I think if there's a new winner, it's probably Colombia.
They'll have a lot of support here.
Oh my goodness gracious! Yes,
and I'll tell you, I don't know if y'all caught the podcast episode I did where I ranked the top 10 group stage games to watch. Number 1 with a bullet by 100 miles, and it's not close, is Colombia, Portugal, and Miami.
Correct. Correct.
Like, I think there's a lot of concern about how full some of these stadiums are going to be at this World Cup. That's one. I'm not concerned about.
That one should have been in Jerry World with all the seats open, and they still wouldn't have been able to fit everyone that wants to.
And that's one that I was hoping and praying would be in Atlanta, because I would have loved to have gone to that one. But they're going to have a lot of home support. They were the runners-up at Copa America 2 years ago. They did pretty well, if memory serves, in World Cup qualifying. I don't think the heat is going to bother them the way travel might get them, because they're having to go cross-border. I think they got a game or two in Mexico. But their group, it's going to come down to that last game. I mean, they're going to get 6 points against Congo and Uzbekistan, and it's just going to come down to the game against Portugal. If they top that group, then they've got a nice long runway into the knockout round.
I am going to be bold here because England's not winning this and Germany aren't winning this because the heat. I mean that sincerely. Like, they are not dealing with it well. I do think France and Spain are especially Spain, a little more used to, like, it gets hot in those countries. Obviously not US hot, but like it gets hot. But it certifiably gets hot on the south coast.
Spain is made up of a lot of desert.
Yeah. Yes, it is actually. That's factual. And they have a very good beach front for a reason, because you don't go to the beach if it's 60 degrees out, So I do think those countries are capable. But when I look at it, I go, man, Argentina and Colombia might have an in just because they're going to be like, this is great weather. What are you talking? Like, if they're like, well, it's a little hot and humid. Yeah, of course it is. Especially Colombia. They're like, of course it's hot and humid. What are you talking about? It's the summer. And so I do think that one of those South American teams, specifically Argentina and Colombia, have a really good shot here, because I do think the heat will be a factor. I mean, it was in 94. Look, the heat is just different here. That's a fact. The different climates, more importantly, are a big deal here that I don't think anyone wants to take. Because Seattle, I'm looking at I'm going to the game in Seattle, and I'm looking at the forecast. And yesterday it said it was going to be 60 and rainy, and today it's going to be 75 and sunny when I look at the forecast for that game day. So I do think that'll be a big factor. I think, though, when you look at the end of the day, like, I don't know, I think Colombia or Argentina have what it takes to win. And I think we might possibly get a new World Cup champion. We haven't had a new World Cup champion
since 2010. Spain?
Yeah, Spain.
No.
Yeah.
Spain.
Yeah, Spain. And Spain could be the first, could get their second. I think if they do everything they're supposed to do, Spain is my favorite. I don't think that's a hot take, but I think Colombia or Argentina might be your winners.
Well, of all of the World Cups played in the Americas, both North and South, the European teams only won it once, and that was 2014. And then Argentina's group is cake for them, is cake.
Yeah, I mean, Austria, Algeria,
and Jordan.
Yeah. Okay.
Like they don't have to switch on until the knockout round. Yeah. Like, there's not a game in the group stage where they have to be dialed in. Because they're good enough, they're not like us.
Spain's is pretty easy too. Spain has Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay, which is a tough one. But I think we all understand Uruguay is not what they used to be.
They don't have no Cavani, no Forlan, no Suarez.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'll be a tough game, but not what it used to be. And I think if you're Spain, Cape Verde and South, not to just miss either of those teams. I'm not being disrespectful. Just saying. So we'll see.
I'll be. You're a very small country making your World Cup debut. You're just happy to be here.
Yeah. France has Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. Like, that's just a tougher group. Like,
Mbappe v. Holland is going to be one hell of a matchup.
Yeah,
that's going to be my CTV.
Exactly. And then Senegal against France.
We saw what happened in 2002 with that one.
Yeah. So
they were so happy to score. He took his shirt off by the corner flag, and they all did a dance with his shirt laying on the ground.
And they'll be dancing again if they score against France or even beat them. That's look. The World Cup is here. That's all I got to say, man. You should start getting excited. And as I said on my hit on this Soccer Down Here morning show this week, believe in this team, man. It's like, now is the time to be irrationally hopeful of this team, because why not? As soon as I stop recording this, logic is out the window here. Go USA. We're winning the whole damn thing, because why wouldn't you want to have that belief in your team heading into a home World Cup? It's no fun to watch these games as we're going to lose. You don't know that.
Like we did 4 years ago. Last World Cup was we were back, but like, you knew exactly what was going to happen. And if you can't get behind them now, when can you?
Yeah. Exactly. So I hope we all do it. Gentlemen, I appreciate y'all joining me for this long episode, but it needed to be long. We had a lot of World Cups to talk about. Lawrence, you have been doing a lot of rounds on the local ESPN station, so congrats to you. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, LDoc93, as he covers Memphis FC, the Memphis Tigers soccer program, and does a lot of ESPN hits in the Memphis area. Make sure you follow Thomas on Twitter at USKeeper for great historical statistics and analysis throughout the tournament. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Soccer4UsPod. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Bart. I'm out.